agreements come with non-compete clauses, some come with non-solicitation clauses, some come with confidentiality clauses, and these are things that you need to look out for. You find that some people, when they leave a particular company and they probably go to start their own thing, it might not be similar, it might touch on some things from their previous employer's work, etc., but they always have issues. And sometimes the issues come from their previous employers. And you're probably saying, my village people have caught up with me. Why? Why can't I shine? Well, you can't shine because you didn't look at your agreement properly. And for so many young people, let me say that I understand why. You're excited to get that job. You're excited to join that team. You're excited to start building your portfolio. But what you don't know is that excitement may be short-lived by just the presence of a clause in your agreement that you did not look through. You probably didn't even anticipate it. Or you just said, it's just 2 years. That's fine. Now, something else to look out for is your intellectual property rights. Now, for the smart companies or smart startups, they definitely include this clause in their employment contracts. When we speak about intellectual property rights, intellect, property, if you think about land, right, let's say this building, it's a property owned by Landmark. It's a physical building, right? You can see it, you can touch it. But when it comes to intellectual property, these are ideas that you come up with. And I'm sure that in this room, over 75% of you have come up with amazing ideas in the past few months. And the truth is, you're not the only one that's come up with those ideas. The same brain you have is the same brain I have. I probably thought about it maybe while I was, lounging. And you probably thought about it whilst you were coding. But they're all ideas. And when you execute your ideas, you want to be sure that you can protect these ideas. I hope that you understand up until this point. Because us lawyers can make that mistake of rambling, thinking that the audience understands us, but they don't. Anyways, let me go back to the restrictive clauses. A confidentiality clause in your employment contract or an NDA prevents you from disclosing confidential information. Now, any employer that gives you that is certain or anticipates that they would actually have information that they don't want you to put out there. It's fine, it's fair. If you were the one, running such entity, you would definitely want to protect your confidential information. And so they would include that clause. Now, sometimes you probably see a non-compete clause, which means they're trying to get you to not leave their company and start maybe a similar company. And to an extent, that can be a problem because then it can foster monopoly. Especially if that's a novel company in that space. It can actually foster a monopoly on their own end. And so I would definitely say engage a lawyer because the way clauses are couched, there can be room for certain exceptions and there can be room to protect you. Now, there's also the non-solicitation as well. Or when you leave our company, don't work with, or don't try to entice another employee or a colleague of yours to join you, etc. Sometimes you can't control this. And as much as I understand why that company will include that clause, I also understand why a young person who is just starting out their career should not necessarily agree to that clause in entirety. I'm sorry, I put this here so you guys can laugh and you're not laughing, but I'm the one laughing, it's fine. Anyways, I really hope that you're taking notes. Now, this takes us to intellectual property. Now, there's several types of your intellectual property rights. So you have the copyrights, you have your trademark, you have your patents, you have trade secrets, geographic indications, you have industrial designs. But for the purpose of our session today, we're going to be talking about the first four. Now, when we talk about copyrights, right? Copyrights are for artistic work. So the likes of Burna Boy and Wizkid, they obviously own copyrights over their music, their lyrics, etc. Authors of books that you've probably read at uni, secondary school, they hold the copyrights over their work, right? When I draft agreements, I hold the copyrights over that agreement, so I'm sorry. If you're going to copy my agreement, then you have to give me acknowledgement for it, or at least ask me to give you consent to use that. But now, here's one important thing about copyrights. You can copyright your codes, and I'm probably sure you didn't know that. Now, some of you actually come up with you write amazing code, Like you actually do it and you look at your work like, I the code sha. Would there be? Now me, right? You probably filled yourself with coffee at like 12 a.m. and you're coding, and by like 4, your brain is telling you you're a boss. You're a boss. You're a boss. You can actually hold the copyrights over your code because code is also a work, an artistic work that falls under the purview of copyright under intellectual property. The reason why I say this is because for many of you here, you're probably coding to code. But for some people, it's like, it's something that they enjoy. It's their means of communication. Now imagine pouring out your heart, your soul, everything to that code, and you actually come up with something really, really grand. Yes, you can hold the copyright over that. Which also brings me to open source because I know that you're building on other people's works and the open source and all of that. I get that. And open source is actually, sparks a lot of conversations around, intellectual property ownership. Who eventually owns the right over that thing that has been created? Because he built it, I put something on it, someone else added, then someone else came to use it. So who is the true owner? But we're going to get to that point anyways. So one keynote that you should leave this hall with is you can own the copyright over your code. Definitely. Now, the next one is trademark. So, let me use GDG Lagos, right? So GDG Lagos is a very long name, Google Developers Group Lagos. Let's say we want to trade or we want people to know us as DevFest. That's a very easy, straightforward name, right? We can actually go ahead and trademark the name DevFest, trademark the logo that you can see, maybe trademark the slogan, "We're the best developer community in Africa." And what that means is only us can use the word DevFest, the slogan, "We're the best developer community in Africa," and of course the logo. Now, if someone else wants to use it, they will definitely need consent from us. But the beauty of trademark is the simplicity that it actually brings to your brand. It carves out that niche for you. I'll give you an example. Close Up is trademarked. So when you actually see Close Up, yeah, you know that shit is trademarked. When you see or when you hear of She Code Africa, the logo, the name, that's trademarked. So someone else can't use it. But one thing you need to know is these rights are regional. For example, if I trademark DevFest in Nigeria, that's where it pertains to, Nigeria. Unless I obviously go bigger. Maybe I go to WIPO. But let's not dabble into that. I still want you guys to stay with me. And please, if you've left me, tell me that you've left me. Now, another thing to consider is patents. Now, patents are for novel ideas. So for something to be novel, it means it's the first of its kind. An example would be the microwave when it was made. Forgive me for saying this, but Viagra is a very, very famous patent that has made so much money in the first 2 years from its creation. They made so much money, and I'll tell you why. Because when other pharmaceutical companies wanted to create a similar product, they had to go meet the patent holders to obviously get that license to use their patents to build their own products. So you find patents, you find a lot of patent holders in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm sure you probably know about Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes. She obviously obtained a patent for some of the works that she had come up with that were novel. The pill-sized blood test and all of that. But even in the tech space as well, there's certain things that can be patented. My partner will agree with me. Oh, that's true. My partner is here. She's looking at me like, she'd agree with me. A few months back, a particular startup reached out to us, and they said, Karen, we need to patent something. And truth be told, when they actually reached out to us, I understand that most people, when they want to refer to IP, they always say patents. But patent is a type of IP. And so when they came and they said, oh, Karen, we need to patent something, I was like, okay, these guys need to actually protect their work. They have an IP they want to protect, not necessarily patent it. But I was amazed and I was impressed that this guy said to me, "We've just built a product, and we are the first ones from our research to actually build a product like this in this part of the world. And so we actually want to hold the patent over that product such that when we have the other boys and girls, trying to build on this product or have a similar product, they would have to approach us first to obtain a license or a permit from us to use, our own work or idea." And I was like, wow, this guys actually understand what patent is. My job has been made easier. Nice. Anyways, the reason why I shared this story is to explain what patents are all about. In the tech space, you can literally come up with new ideas that people have not had before. It could be the process of building an application, a mobile application. Maybe let's say the norm is to go from A to B to C, then D. But then in your own time, you probably did DCEB. That's a new way. You've come up with a new way to actually build something. And so when you think about it, you want to actually hold the patent over that process. Because with patents, you're holding the patent over the process. So now, before they get to the end results, they have to come through your own process to get to the end results. And you hold the license over your own process. And so if someone else actually wanted to do that, maybe come up with the same result as you have, they have to go through your own steps, unless they want to pour in so much money into research and development. And trust me, nobody wants to do that. They want to put money into marketing, not necessarily research and development, especially when someone has, come up with a simplified process at getting to the end goal. And this is where we talk about patents. Now, trade secrets, as the name implies, trade secrets. There's so many people working in companies here that have certain secrets that they don't want to share with the outside world because it's probably what makes their business their business thrive, or it's something that they want to have as just pertaining to them. They want it to be part of their brand. In this situation, right, you can actually make a move to own the rights over those trade secrets. Because if this thing gets out, your business model is probably compromised. Someone else probably going to be, dragging the same revenue that you could have actually had a little bit of monopoly over, right? And so you see people making a move to protect their confidential information, protect things about their business plan, their models, their strategies, etc. They're not doing it because they're trying to do the most. But they realize that is a source of income for them, and once compromised, they're doomed. And so they take the extra step to protect those secrets so that it stays with them. And if it were to come out, they'll sue you. And they'll make a whole load of money and probably share some with me. Before moving further, I had mentioned earlier that I was going to give a bonus points to founders. Now, if you're in the hall here and you see yourself as a founder, or you have a product in mind, you're still trying to come up with your team, or you're thinking about how to execute, or you're still going through that whole, you're still in the ideation phase or R&D or whatever, then this next slide is for you. So please pay attention. And if you have friends as well going through the same thing, definitely pay attention for their own, obviously, benefits. So the first thing as a founder or as a developer who is trying to build a product, start something, think about your business structure, right? Now, some structures work best for certain kind of businesses and some don't. Now, if someone came to me and said, "Oh, Karen, I want to sell maybe shoes," right? I just want to, buy shoes and sell them. The easiest thing to do is to have a business name registered. The person said to me, however, that I want to produce these shoes. I need capital. I need to be able to raise money to produce these shoes and sell, start small and obviously scale. I would definitely say to them, you need to go register your company. Ensure that business is separate from you. It's a different person from you. And you're able to actually raise funds from getting shareholders on board, people that you would normally call investors, right? So first things first is to have a look at your business, understand the model. speak with a lawyer, definitely, a licensed lawyer. Another thing would be to consider your business foundation documents. So things like your founders agreement, your non-disclosures, definitely consider these agreements, because one thing people fail to realize is because someone is my friend doesn't mean that there wouldn't be issues tomorrow. I mean, you even have issues with your loved ones, your siblings, even your kids, etc., right? And what helps in hashing out those issues are the black and white agreements that you've actually executed. Another thing to look out for is regulatory compliance. This is very, very, very important, because fintech startups are more regulated than an edutech startup or a health tech startup. And these are things you need to consider. As a founder, I always say to the people that approach me, you also need to do your own research. Definitely get a lawyer to assist you, but you need to know what pertains to the industry that you're operating in. Don't just start something, build a product, and then as clueless as you are, you actually go into the market, and then in 2 weeks, you're being shut down by a regulatory agency, and then you think your village will actually caught up with you. No, your ignorance caught up with you, not the village, but actually. Another thing to consider will be your tax, right? I say to people, yes, they're recording this session. What a bummer. Anyways, you can say to yourself and to me that Nigeria hasn't done anything for you, the roads are bad, healthcare is not really great. I understand. But you have to pay tax. The law is the law. Ignorance is not a defense in court, and they're not going to bend their head and say, oh, we feel sad that you feel this way, so we'll let you go with a tap on the wrist. It doesn't work that way. Always ensure that you pay your tax. And for employees here, let me just chip this in. Employers say that they're paying your tax for you. They're deducting your money from your monthly salary, only to realize some months or years after that that your tax hasn't been paid. It has happened. I've seen this happen, yes. A client came to us, and we were trying to sort out her tax, only to realize that the last 2 years of her tax were not paid. But her employer was deducting her tax for her and saying that he was paying it. And it became a problem because she was trying to jackpot. And I said to people that are here, if you want to jackpot, the country you're going to, they want to be able to see that you're compliant. If you cannot pay tax in your own country, they're not going to even trust that you can pay tax in their own country. And so that was a problem for her when she was trying to leave, because now she couldn't account for the last 2 years in tax returns or tax certificates. So please, 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 when they say they're paying for you, follow up with that, because some people just use it to deduct money from your salary, and that's the truth. Another thing, obviously, I've spoken about is IP, your intellectual property protection. Very important. When you start your own company, your IP rights are then held or vested on the company itself, because the company is a separate person from you, which means it can sue and it can be sued. It can do business, whatever, aside from you. And always, always, always execute the right contracts. I say this because some people get into some flimsy agreements and then they think, oh yeah, I'm covered. No, sorry, boo, you're not covered. Always speak to a lawyer before you execute your contracts to understand the clauses and understand the liabilities and limitations that such contracts pose to you and your company. And lastly, always, always get insurance for your business. I'm sure you're aware of the flood that happened. And I mean, we're still even suffering from the after effects of it. So many people lost their businesses. So many people lost their lives, their homes. But for some of them that actually had, insurance covers gotten over their businesses, their goods, etc., they're able to, pick up to start their business over again. But for those that didn't have any insurance cover, they're down bad. And so I know we don't talk about this often, but always, always get an insurance cover. Thank you.